make much sense if you have not published it, because your research should reach to wider audience, and for that you need to publish your research. So before that, I would like to speak about writing a research paper. So there are so many components for that. You have started pursuing your research. You have few results with you, and you want to you want to share the results of your research with wider audience, so that you can get input about your research, and you can strengthen your research, or you can just widen the scope of your research. So for that purpose, publishing your paper is very much required. And for that, I have planned to include few slides regarding that. So the first thing which you must know is the title of your paper is very important. It's like a heart in your body. So paper title is very crucial. Unless it is very appealing, it is very good. The editor, first thing he will do is he will just look at your title, and based on that he will judge your paper. And that depends whether your paper is going to cross the first hurdle or not. So see, just look at this, the first title. This is like estimation of rainfall runoff by using SCS curve number method and GIS of Vellore River Basin. So what is the first thing which comes into your mind by looking at this one? See, this is very general title, and this SCS curve or this rainfall runoff, this is very common thing. And the author is focusing on that Vellore River Basin. If we are sending it to some international journal, or even few national journals, they won't accept it, because this thing CS curve and all, it is very common. So the first thing which editor will do is he will feel that this thing is already, I mean, see, so many works have been already done on this topic. So he will feel that this work is useless, and author just try to just reassess certain thing by including few results. So first thing which he will do is he will just reject this paper. Even if he won't even look at the abstract or at the structure of the paper. Now, if we rearrange it in this way, like GIS based surface runoff modeling using empirical technique for a river basin in South India. So what he will feel now, what he will feel? He will feel that author, they have used some runoff modeling because we have not mentioned in our title, and he will feel that the GIS based criteria have been used, and there is some river basin in South India, and over that particular region author have performed their analysis. So this looks more global now, and even this looks more compact. So now editor will feel that okay, this is worth sending for review for revision purpose or for review purpose. So he may look into your abstract, because this title is appealing now, and the first thing he will which he will do is he will look at your abstract also now. And remember, actually you need to change your title according to the journal. For example, see these two, the last two, they are this is the same work actually, but depending on the journal in which we are sending our paper, you have to change the title of your paper. For example, if we are sending our paper to some environmental journal, there are so many environmental journal in Springer or in elsewhere. So this the first title, that on land use, land cover changes over a district in northern India using remote sensing and GIS and their impact on society and environment. See, this work, it is basically focusing on land use, land cover changes, but it has certain aspect of impact of these changes on society and environment. But if we don't mention these things, and if we send it to environmental journal, editor will immediately reject it. He will feel that, see, this work is not relevant to the scope of our journal. But if we have included this thing, that their impact on society and environment, he will feel that okay, certain element of this thing is involved, so it can be it can be considered for environmental journal. Now, if the same thing, if we have to say now, and you know, here also we cannot see any element of other things also. And the same thing, see, this is the second one. So this is like a remote sensing application for exploring changes in land use and land cover over district in northern India. So if we have to send it to remote sensing journal, if we are sending the first one, then editor will feel that it may have you know, more than 50% element of environmental things. So he will feel that this is not suitable for remote sensing journal. But in the beginning itself, we have mentioned that this is remote sensing application for exploring changes in this one. He will feel that almost 80 or 90% of the research or the results, they belong to remote sensing application. So he will immediately take the title and he will look into your abstract. Then this is one abstract. Actually, I got this abstract from a few of students, and they asked me to, you know, just improve this one. So what can you see from this abstract? Actually, this is one of the most pathetic way of writing. So if you look at this abstract, there are, you know, they have given few definitions. They have included a few elements randomly. I mean, nothing is related to each other. So the thing is, your abstract, the first thing which you have to include in abstract is why you are doing it. What is the, you know, what is the use of doing it? What you did that? What kind of applications or what kind of analysis you did? And why it is going to be useful, and in what way it is unique, what is the new it is offering to audience. And in the last, if you can include 1 or 2 lines regarding, you know, how in future it can be used for some application, that will be very good for you. So in abstract, remember one more thing, those statements which you are keeping in your abstract, it has to be related with each other. It should be in one flow. I mean, it should not be like you have included a few random statements in between. That is not good. So if editor will look at that one, then he will feel that they just, you know, they just have taken few statements or some few sentences from here and there, and they just have pasted it randomly. So he will have a very bad idea, or he will have very bad opinion about the abstract, and he will immediately reject it. So the first thing is the importance of your title, and your abstract is also very crucial, because this is, you know, this is very compact, and you know, that editor, he expects that you must dedicate few of your lines to the results also. You need to include few of your results. I mean, he doesn't expect that you include each and every thing of your result. That he doesn't expect. But at least few results you need to mention in abstract, few crucial results which you feel that you know, it is going to impress your editor. So that is very important. So this was one of the most pathetic abstract which was written. Then you look at this abstract and you look at this title. This is the perfect way of writing your title and writing your abstract. The first thing, this journal, this is like dynamics of atmospheres and oceans. So editor, he will expect that you need to send your papers which is related to the dynamics of atmospheres and oceans. So here we have, when the author, you know, he just tried to give maximum input of this dynamics. So he had prepared it in such a way that it looks more like towards some dynamics of atmosphere and ocean. So he had kept it like on the linkage between changes in cloud cover and precipitation extremes. So when we are talking about cloud cover and precipitation extremes, that's dynamic thing, it is automatically included in that one. So now the editor felt that this is very appropriate for this journal. Now look at the abstract. So the author, he started presenting what he did. Like he had mentioned that in this study, linkage between changing characteristics of precipitation streams and cloud cover over central India is explored during this monsoon season using satellite data. So he just mentioned everything what he did, and in the second sentence he mentioned that this is the first attempt. See, if your work is unique, that should reflect in your abstract that this is a unique thing. This is the first time you are performing or anybody is doing this kind of research. Then you just include few of your, you know, results. Like here we have included that this is the result, like heavy rainfall is associated with cold cloud, blah, blah, blah. And then this is the most important thing of that one, that among these relations, increase in this 5% heavy rainfall is relating best with this one. So this is the element of, you know, the dynamics of atmosphere and ocean. So this is directly related to this one. And in the last sentence, you can see what they have kept, that the results reported in this study fit into the framework of how weather extremes respond to the climate change. So in the last sentence, author, he is talking about, you know, linking this particular research with future thing or its unique application. So the thing is, your title should match. Your title should match with the scope of your journal, and the abstract, your abstract should be very compact and informative. You don't need, you know, it doesn't matter whether your abstract is large or small. Only thing which matters is how beautifully it has been written. How much you know, that important element you have included. It doesn't matter if you have written any abstract for 8 or 9 lines. Only thing which matters is whether you have mentioned the uniqueness of your work, or whether you have presented few of important results, and whether you have dedicated 1 or 2 lines for the, you know, for the application of this particular thing, or you have mentioned a way how in near future this research can be, you know, can be taken up. So that is very important. Then you know, this is also very important. How you have presented your picture, how you have presented your images, that is important. So here a author, he has presented this picture like in 1979, how land use land cover over a particular, you know, particular district of Indian region was looking like. So if we look at this one, we can say that okay, certain classes are there. This region, it may be, you know, dense for certain classes, and it may be rare for other classes. But if we have to say that what is your conclusion, we can only say that okay, I can conclude that this much area is for this particular class, and this much area is for that particular class. This is the only conclusion which we can draw. Now consider the next one. Here, if we are doing our research which deals with how much changes a class suffered from, you know, from last few decades to the present decade, then this is the perfect illustration of that thing. This was the scenario in 1979. Then in 2001, it happened like that. And in recent decade, it changed like that. So if we include this picture, I mean, you know, the combination of how much changes have been there since last few decades to the present decade, then this will give idea to editor that, okay, this much is the changes in a particular class of that land use land cover. And he will feel that okay, author, they have tried, and they have, you know, they have analyzed a few data and tried to explore what are the changes from one class to other, and they try to relate it with I mean, they try to relate why it is happening. So the combination of your picture and the way you have presented your picture, that is very important, and that is going to, you know, reviewer, the first thing which he will see is that how you have kept your picture. Actually, I have reviewed few papers, and I have seen that there is no relation between, you know, figure 1 and figure 3 or figure 4. They should be interrelated. There must be, you know, some coordination between them. There must be some relationship between them. Without that, a reviewer will reject the paper, and he will say that authors, they have randomly written their paper without any physical basis. Then if you are writing your research paper, the most important thing is you choose a, you know, wider topic. For example, if somebody is doing research on, you know, water resources, so he can consider choosing a title like, you know, I'm going to analyze that droughts or floods over this particular region. Then he has to narrow his topic, because see, if that is the thing, there may be more than thousands of researchers doing the same thing. Now you have to narrow your topic like, okay, I want to use this particular technique, and I want to apply this one to this particular reason. And you have to have answer why you have selected that particular reason, and why that particular technique you have selected, whether any advantage of that whether any advantage of the technique is there, or suppose if somebody has selected a particular district in Tamil Nadu, like say Kanchipuram, then he must have some idea why Kanchipuram is important for this aspect, for that droughts and flood related. Why, whether since last few years or since last few decades, there is increase in droughts and floods events. So those things that must come into your mind. You must be clear about those things. You must have, you must have seen few papers which are related to this particular topic. So start selecting a, wider topic. Then you have to find a way to just narrow your topic, because if you are taking wider topic, then you have to be ready for dedicating more than 10 or 15 years to that particular thing. But if you are narrowing your thing, then that will helpful for you. The C's, there are advantages of both the things. If you are selecting wider topic, that will give scope to you to read more papers or more literature. And based on your information or based on your knowledge from those papers, you will be in position to narrow your topic. Because unless you are unless you have looked into those literatures, you won't be able to decide in which particular area or which particular analysis technique I have to adopt. So that depends on you. Then writing a thesis statement, that is very important. The thesis statement is like a combination of so many important points. So you sit, you decide what are the things. See, once your topic is selected, then you decide that what are the important aspects of that one. How many efforts for this particular narrow topic has been adopted in past, and whether they were succeeded to do that research, or if those researchers, they tried their research in this particular topic, whether any new thing they found. If they found, then you can think that in what way I can further contribute in this particular topic. So collection of important points, or arrangement of those points, that is very important. So you have to sit, you have to use the knowledge which you gained by literature survey to decide your that thesis statement. That is very important. Then create one outline, how you have to arrange that one. Start from that just some abstract or some synopsis. Then you have to arrange the thing that this particular chapter, it has to consist of this kind of things. I mean, if I have to include introduction, how many elements, or how many equations or how much information I have to do. That is very important, because sometimes researchers, they used to focus much on chapter 1, like they used to do maximum information as introduction, and that will just make the things complicated. The reviewer, he will lose his interest, and he won't be able to judge your paper. He will feel that he just had collected few information and he just have dumped it. So creating an outline is very important. You have to plan your work accordingly. Then choosing your topic. So as I said earlier, that you just need to choose your topic. Just initially you try to select a wider topic, have few that literature survey, and use the information which you gain from that one to narrow your research area. Then it should, see, originality is very, very important. You cannot impress your audience, you cannot impress the editor, or you cannot impress your guide without the originality of your work. If you have done some research which is very general or very common, then editor or your guide or audience, they will feel that he has done nothing. He just had taken few data, use already published information to just present few things. So he will feel that this is garbage. Then sources. See, originality is important, but at the same time you have to select a topic which already have some existing result or some existing research papers. Without that, as a beginner, for you it will be very difficult to decide from where we have to begin. See, the most important thing in your research is just to is to ask a question to yourself, from where, which particular problem I have to select and from where I have to begin. So once you decide on that one, you can always read few very good papers, and you can use those knowledge to just plan your research accordingly. Then this is a way to narrow your topic. So for example, if somebody is interested to do classification of land use land cover over certain region or over certain country, then the first thing which he can do is just try to be specific. What kind of classes? There may be multiple classes. For example, if somebody is interested to do research on land use land cover over Tamil Nadu or over Kanchipuram, then he has to, he has to have information regarding Kanchipuram. Which particular class has shown much changes since last few years or since last few decades. So depending on that, he can take the class. He can take that class. For example, if somebody is talking about, those water body, we may be reading that those groundwater level is decreasing. So he must have some information or some clues that okay, let us focus more on those water things. So he can take that class. If somebody is talking or if that particular district, if it has that forest cover, it had some forest cover and in recent years or in recent decades, if the forest covers has been decreased, then he can take that class. So he can take 2 or 3 classes also. It doesn't matter. I mean, it all depends on how much time you have or what kind of analysis you are going to do. So depending on that, the first thing which you have to do is just select your classes or just types. And then you just focus on a particular place. Why you have taken that particular place, it is very important. You cannot just take that, okay, I'm taking Kanchipuram because it is very near to my place or the data is easily available. No, that you cannot do. Those things are other matter. The first thing is you have to select the reason why you have taken it. Whether that particular reason, it underwent huge changes from last few decades to the present decade, that is important. So the thing is you have to read about that particular region. You may have n number of literatures and you just go through them and find that, okay, what kind of changes that particular region have underwent since last few decades. So by doing that, you will be able to focus on a particular class on particular region or your study area, if I say. Then one more important thing is on which time period you want to focus. See, if we are talking about, that global warming, suppose somebody is talking about, then we all know that global warming started once that those things started, that urbanization. So before that, global warming was not that much severe. So if we are doing some research on global warming, then we have to select that particular period, like from 1970s, we have to focus on that. And now, if somebody is doing research on droughts and floods over a particular region, say over Kanchipuram or some other district, then he just have to have the knowledge about from which particular month, from which particular year it all started. So that is also important. See, I know, or even you know, that if you are doing analysis, then if you have huge data set since 100-year data set, then for you it will be very difficult to do analysis for all those 100 years. So important point is you have to have information from which particular decade or from which particular year changes were there. So you have to focus on that. That is very important. Then you have to focus on certain aspects like social, legal, medical. I mean, what kind of aspect is important to this particular change? So you have to focus on that. Suppose if you feel that changes were there, and that change it affected economically or that philosophically or biologically, then you have to select that class also, that you are doing this particular analysis and ultimately you are relating it with this particular thing. So that you have to focus on. Then you have to focus on a specific population. On which particular, for example, if somebody is talking about urbanization, then he has to make sure that a particular population or a particular species, it has gone through tremendous changes. So we also have to take care about those things. Then focus on relationship with 2 or more topics. See, you have selected a particular research topic, and you might have done your research, and you might have found that, okay, this is the changes, or this is the result which I got. Now you try to find all the answer, why it is happening, and how it is related to other parameters, how it is going to affect the other thing. For example, if you have done your research on, you know, the forest area, then you found that, okay, forest areas in Kanchipuram, it has decreased since last 2 decades, then you have to find the answer, why it happened. And then the next question which you have to ask yourself is how it is related, how it is going to affect the community. So those things should come into your mind, and that's why you have to be ready always to relate more parameters or more variables. Unless you do that, editor, you know what he will find, not only editor, it's not for that only, even your audience, if you have presented your paper, if you have published your paper, your audience will find that this research is very, like, it's very one dimensional. Other he just have you know, analyzed the changes, and he didn't try to relate it with certain aspect. So the thing is, you have to relate the things, and you have to combine different kind of things. So if you do that, your research or your result will be complete, and that will give, you know, that will give a very good impression on your audience. That is very important, and that will give satisfaction to you also. Then this is how you can do it. You see, if you have started doing some research, then these are the things which you have to ask yourself: who, what, when, where, and why. I mean, what I'm doing, and who's the target area, from when it has to be started, and from where, I mean, which region I have to, and why I'm doing that. These things are very important. So have a checklist of those things, and once you feel that I am able to answer all those questions, I'm able to answer who, what, when, why, where, and why, then you are bang on. Your research is in the right direction. Then the most important thing is you have to review your recent literature. And again, I'm telling you, I request you actually, I have seen a few of research scholars, they used to read very cheap journal, very, you know, I mean, when I say cheap, it's not like cost, it's not like cost thing. It is like those journals, they are, you know, they are without quality. They don't have quality. I mean, those journals are like, you give some amount, you give some money, and they will publish your paper. Even the editor, they won't bother to look at your paper. So the thing is, when I say literature survey, please try to read very good journal, quality journals. That is very important, because if you look at them, you will find your own ways to enrich yourself. That is very important. So always try, or always focus on quality journals, and that will, you know, that will help you to have your own ideas, and that is very important for your research. Then you have to recall questions which, I mean, if few of them you may be doing, you know, those course study and all. So you have to recall what kind of questions were asked in the classes, and that will help you to, you know, enrich the ideas inside your mind, and then apply your paper to your career goals. And the most important aspect is you have to speak to your guide, you have to speak to your professor, and just tell him that this is the idea in your mind, how we can do it. Because see, you are new to that particular field, but your guide, he must have, or he might have, you know, 30 or 40 years of research experience. He can help you. See, a good guide is, he cannot, you know, he will not spoon feed you. At least he will make sure that those ideas come into your mind automatically, and he will just mold you a little bit. He will make you to understand, he will make you to learn. A good guide, he will never spoon feed you that, okay, I'm just giving you this thing, this is the you know, programming I'm giving, just run, just take the data, run this program, and your work is over. No, a good guide, he won't do that. Initially you may feel that your guide is very bad, or your guide is not that much, you know, helpful, or he's not cooperating, but ultimately that is good for you. Ultimately he's making you to learn few things. I tell you one story of myself. I was in Taipei for postdoc experience for 2 years, and my guide initially, I mean, he was a Chinese guy, so he was interactive, he was good, and I mean, most of the times he used to interact me, and he used to share the idea, and this is how we can do it. But at the same time, I had other friends they used to say that, hey, my boss had given this particular programming to me, and this is the result which I got. So I used to feel that, see how bad my guide is. He is never cooperating. But at the end of the year, I felt that, hey, I have developed a programming skill and I'm very good in programming. And those guys, they had no clue about programming. See, once they were out, they were not able to regenerate their own research. But in my case, I was able to do it single-handedly because my guide had made me to learn programming. And unless, if you have a guide who just make you to do the things, who just make you to learn the things, that guide is very good. I mean, see, initially you may feel that he's not helping much, but for your career, that is very important, and ultimately you will appreciate the you will appreciate your guide in future. Then the thesis statement I was talking about. So it's like, that's it's just like a miniature, and it's a roadmap for the rest of your paper. If you have important collection of important points, then you will be able to, if you are sitting in your home, then you can recall that, okay, so this is the topic which I'm focusing on, and this is the reason which I'm focusing on, and these are the these are the methodology, or these are the analysis tools which I'll be using, like that. So that will give clear picture to you, and you can decide that, okay, I'm clear about the research which I'm going to take. And then a typical thesis statement gives you brief mention to each of the paper's main point. If you have read 20 papers in 1 month, then definitely each and every paper, they have certain aspect. They may be focusing on certain aspects of the thing, but if you have carefully read them, then you will have idea that, okay, this technique is the best technique for this particular region, and this particular region is very good. This is very unique. I can take my research for this because this particular region has experienced so many changes since last few decades. So the thing is, each and everything will be clear in your mind, and it also directly answers the question asked to you. And it makes a claim that others might dispute. See, sometimes if something is there in your mind, if you have some plan in your mind, then definitely there are people or there are researchers who will just debate that, okay, whether this is right way or not. But if it is not there, this is not good for you. Ultimately, you should have a disagreement, and that will give you, that will motivate you to learn the things, and that will motivate you to debate with yourself that, okay, hey, whether I am doing the right thing or not. And once you are doing with yourself only, you will be able to do your research efficiently. Then it is usually a single sentence near the end of, see, this thesis statement I'm talking about. So the thing is, it has to be, for example, if you have written like 1 page of his statement, then it has to be somewhere in your that statement, the important point, or the way you have structured it. That is very important. Then this is the how you identify a strong statement. So the first thing is, whether do I answer the question. See, you have to identify a research question. You have to identify that, see, why it is important, why I am doing it. So if you are sure that this is the answer, I'm doing it because this is the reason. I'm analyzing flood data over this particular region because this region, it has experienced 10 flood events since last 8 years. We are talking about Chennai actually since last 5 years, it experienced 2 flood events, 1 cyclone and one heavy flooding. So the thing is, you must have answer. There may be questions, why flood? Then you must have answered because this particular region, it has experienced these kind of extreme events. Then, have I taken a position that others might challenge? That is important. For example, see, other people, they may be doing the conventional thing. They might have taken some rain gauge data. They might have taken some analysis tool, which is already available. But if you have done some new thing, if you have found a new way, like, okay, I'm going to do this hydrological model, and why? Because this is the thing. I mean, you have to have answer within yourself. Why I have taken this hydrological model? Not because this is readily available, because this particular model, it is taking this many inputs, this many important input, which is related to flood event. That's why I have taken it. Not because it is readily available or it is available with my sir. No, that should not be the answer. it has to be relevance with the answer which you are going to give for that question. Then, does my thesis has passed the so what test? See, you might have some result. You must have shown those results to your guide, and he must be saying, "Hey, so what? I mean, it's not a big deal. This is the result. Okay, I know that. Okay, this is the trend of that flood event. So what is new in this one? So what? So you have to answer that one. Whether your research is beyond that, you should be able to do that. No, 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 sir. This is a past thing already happening. The uniqueness of my hydrological model is I have taken this much of input variables to generate this flood risk thing, and my resolution is best. My resolution is very good. So you must have, the answer for this so what thing. You must have, you must be ready with, with uniqueness of your research. Why? I mean, you can say that, no, no, sir, this is different from other research. So your guide must be, appreciating you that, okay, no, 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 this is something unique, this is something new. So that should be there. Then, does my essay support my thesis? See, you must have a certain framework. You might have formed a framework. Then, whether your thesis is answering all those things, whether your thesis has important component which is answering all those questions which you were asking in the beginning. Then, does my thesis pass the how and why test? Means, see, people, they may ask how you are going to, how you are going to analyze the flood risk, and why it is why you are doing that. Then the answer must be with you, that why, I mean, why I am doing that, and this is the way I'm going to do that. So these things are very important. You must have clear picture of those things, and once you are clear on that one, you will be able to write a very good thesis. You will be able to do you will be able to do an excellent research. Then see, this is one example. If somebody is saying that, see, this is the essay topic I'm giving you, compare and contrast the region, why Indian monsoon is failing. Then you have to search the answer. And one of, this answer, we cannot say that is wrong. So we can say that, okay, Indian monsoon is failing because Indian monsoon is decreasing. There is, less rainfall in certain part of region. That we cannot say that this is not true, but this is very poor example. Another example is that, see why this Indian monsoon is decreasing and why it is being affected. We can say that, okay, climate change is happening and that climate change is affecting Indian monsoon. So we can say that, okay, see, he knows that Indian monsoon is decreasing or Indian monsoon is affecting, and he has done some research which supplements the claim that climate change is the reason behind that. So this is the better example, but the best example is this one, that changes in precipitation pattern due to changing climate is making Indian monsoon variable. So why, see, how many elements are there here? So the first thing which is that author, he knows that Indian monsoon is decreasing, Indian monsoon is variable. Why? Because of changing climate. And what changing climate is doing? That changing climate is changing rainfall pattern also. Those low and moderate rainfall event, which is very crucial for, for sustaining those soil moisture and all, that is decreasing. So here, so many components are there, and this is the best example which can, which can be related with your essay topic. So all the three answers, they are right, they are bang on. But the last one is the best because it has so many inputs, it has so many components. I tell you the thing, see, 1 year before we had one paper, and it was, it was focusing on land use land cover changes, and we had sent it to that GIS journal. They accepted that, but editor had just advised that why don't you relate it with certain, those environmental things. So I didn't force my research scholar, but I just made him feel that he has to do this thing. And I appreciate him that he really did a better job, and he just tried to find few environmental parameters and he did that. And in last, editor accepted that and he appreciated the work. So the thing is, you always have to try your best to have as many elements as possible. Ultimately, see, if you have one paper published with these many elements, then definitely the chances of part 2, part 3 it increases, because you have so many results, you have so many aspects, and this is up to you how you are going to produce your second paper, because already you have so many results, and you have to be smart to formulate your new paper, to form your new paper based on, you know, results from the first one. So the thing is, if you have certain elements, if you have so many variables, if you have so many results, that is always going to help you. Then the planning is very important. Suppose you are planning your research, then you have to have certain topic which has to be addressed by yourself. I tell you one story. When I came back to India, I was looking for getting funded project as a PI. So I had no clue, because in past I didn't have any experience of getting fund for any project. I was clueless. So all the time I was just, you know, looking at a few papers, and I was thinking how it can be done. Because already, see, the thing is, your thing has to be very unique. So one day I was just, you know, going from, university and back to my home. And on the way I was thinking about clouds. So, and I had, of course, I had read few papers on that one. I was feel that why, I mean, I should start with some, I should start writing some proposal on cloud. Then I recalled, and I first see already so much work has been done on cloud. So how I can contribute further? Then I thought that, see, clouds, they are very good, you know. Actually, in the first lecture, I told you how good reflector a cloud is. Cloud, they used to reflect incoming radiation back to Earth, and they contribute in, you know, that cooling. So I thought, why can't I relate them with, you know, the global warming and all, or global cooling or warming? Then I thought, okay, this may be one element. Then what else can be done? Then I thought, see, I also read about radiation budget. Then I thought I will relate with that also. I'm going to do some, I'm going to write some research proposal on, you know, cloud impact on radiation. And of course, I'm going to relate it with radiation budget also. So after reaching home also, I mean, when I was doing other work, that thing was in my mind. And I kept thinking about those things. And on the second day, I was ready with, you know, with the planning. And I had decided this is going to be my topic, and this is how I have to formulate the thing. So planning is very important, and for planning you have to think about so many things. So you have to plan, you have to make one outline, you have to prepare a draft. See, for one paper or for one research, you must have multiple drafts. Draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, even sometimes your folder, it may be full of your drafts, because ultimately one thing is there in your mind, and next day if you read some other thing, then you know that you may change your draft, you may include a few things, you may exclude few things. So it all depends how much effort you have taken in preparing your draft, how many times you are revising it, and how many times you are editing it. These things are very important. And once you have done it sufficiently, you will be able to plan your thing very efficiently, and you will write a very good thesis, you will write a very good paper. Then so this is the benefits of the outline. So it definitely is going to help you in the process of writing. It will help you to organize your ideas. See, there one day you may be thinking different, but other day your thinking may be changed. And if you compare those things, if you realize the things many times, then definitely it is going to help you. It is going to enrich your research. That is very important. Then it presents your material in a logical form. When I say logical form, means, see, it's not like that, okay, one idea is there in your mind, and if some silly idea comes, then it has to replace with your unique. No, it always has to be constructive. You know, it's always like 1 version, 2 version. So the thing is, it should improve. That is important. Then you have to, show the relationship among ideas in your writing. There may be so many ideas, but you have to, as I told you, it is very important to include as many components as possible, and that is possible only when you integrate your ideas, when you just relate your ideas together. Then construct an ordered overview of your writing. You just write it roughly, and just you reassess the thing, and in later stage you may be able to just edit your thing, revise your thing, and you may be coming with something unique. Then define your boundaries and group. As I told you earlier, that is very important. You have to have clarity in your mind to focus on certain kind of group, certain kind of region. So that should be very important. And the most important thing is you should not deviate from your core topic. There must be there must be certain core topic for your research. For example, if somebody is willing to do research or water resources, then he must have some clarity in the mind, or he must have some idea in this particular field, or in this particular theme I'm very good. So just focus on that theme. Always try to do the thing in which you are good. So just don't try to deviate much from that one. Of course, you are free to include as many components, but you should put much focus on your core topic or core theme. That is very important for you. Then this is how you can do that. So first use the first thing is the first thing which you have to do certain elementary research. You take some data. Actually, I was I was thinking about your mini project, and I have identified few areas. And when I was doing that, that thing was in my mind. I was thinking that few of the participants, they may be very smart, and they may take this initial result for something new. And I really, I mean, I'm telling you, if somebody is able to do that, I will appreciate that, and I will make sure that if I get, if I have something, I will definitely try to share with him, and I will make sure that we publish that work in a very good journal. So the thing is, whatever we are going to do it in next month, I just encourage all of you to use that, initial research. Take that research, just discuss with me. Let's, let's enrich it with as many components as possible, and try to have some quality research. Then list all the ideas that you want to include in your paper. As I said earlier, no, you must have n number of ideas. You always, I mean, you need to, you need to analyze those ideas, and you all the time you have to think about that. And then when you are going to sleep at night, you just have a look at your draft, and you just try to relate those ideas, and try to just integrate few of them. Try to think which of these ideas they are constructive, which of these ideas they are good for this particular theme. And of course, unnecessarily thing you can just avoid that. I'm not saying that just throw your research, throw your result. Just keep it somewhere, not for this thing. Maybe in near future you can do that. So that is very important. Brainstorming is very important for you. Then you have to organize the thing. You have to those ideas, you have to group them together. You have to integrate them. And then you have to, one more important thing is you have to arrange them properly. So for example, for example, you have 4 case studies, and if you are going to if you are going to mention it in your thesis or in your paper, then you have to make sure that which case study is the best, which case study is it's giving the best result. So you have to arrange the thing. If you feel that this particular case study, this is the best, or this is more relevant to chapter 2 or chapter 3, then you have to make sure that how you are arranging that. So that is very important. Then you have to, of course, you create your main and subheading. That is also important. But always try to avoid multiple subheadings. That is not going to help you. Then this is some tips. Begin early. A strong detailed outline is very crucial. So the thing, if somebody, even I don't care if somebody is in the first year of PhD thing, but the thing is, he always has to see 2 things are there. He has to do his research, he has to learn, and at the same time, he just have to think about, ways to formulate your thesis. That is also important. Begin early. If you are able to prepare your first draft, doesn't matter whether only 1 chapter is there, but ultimately, it is going to give you confidence. And that confidence is very important. So it doesn't matter whether you are beginner or you have crossed 2 months or 3 months. Always try to have some draft that, okay, this is the way I have planned the thing, this is the way I will arrange my work. So that is very important. Always begin early. Try always have so much time with you, so that in the last moment you should not get nervous. I have seen research scholars, they have crossed 4 or 5 years and they are very nervous. They are still not sure whether they will be able to do their research or not, because they have not planned the thing properly. The thing is, they must have proper planning. They must, begin early. Initial 4 or 5 months, they just take the things very lightly that, okay, I mean, we'll do it, no problem. So that should not be there. Always have some plan. begin very early. Then refer to your outline often. You must have some certain outline in your draft. Always refer to that. Always recall that, okay, I have created this. If suppose if you are attending some conference and you found that somebody is presenting the work related to your theme, just speak to him, and that will give you knowledge to, you know, that enrich your outline or enrich your ideas. That is that is also very important. So the thing is, if you have some draft, that should always be there in your mind. It should always be there. That is important, because if sometimes you are listening anything, definitely that should interact with your ideas. Then be as specific as possible. The thing is, for example, if somebody is doing their research on, you know, that forest area, then he has to be very specific, whether he's talking about dense area or rare areas, like that. And if that also, he has to have knowledge that what kind of trees I'm dealing with. So these things, see, even minute things, it should be explored positively. Then avoid, as I told, you know, too many subheadings, it will just create doubt. It will just create, confusion in that reviewer. So always try to avoid so many subheadings. For example, if you have put one heading like case study, then don't put like case study for this reason, case study for that reason. No, that is not important. In one, in one page you can take one case study. In other, see, that will be definite. Your reviewer, he will definitely look at the content of your thing, and he will find that, oh, okay, this many figures are there. It means there may be multiple case studies. So don't create much doubt in his mind by putting so many subheadings. He may be relating it with something else. So that is not that is not advisable. So always try to avoid that, and don't be afraid to change your outline. Always find a way. See, the thing is, you should argue with yourself. You should debate with yourself that, okay, this thing is there. I mean, don't be satisfied that, okay, no, I have already decided, I'm not going to change it. Don't do that, please. Always try to, welcome ideas by yourself, that you may be feeling that, okay, see, this is the thing. I have taken this hydrological model, but now I feel that this is better than this one. It's simply, I mean, you have purchased a mobile, and in coming days or in coming years, if new model is there, definitely you are going to be attracted toward that thing. So in that case also, I mean, you have certain, if you have one draft, don't hesitate to change that. That is always, it will be plus only. It is going to improve your, it is going to improve your research. Then allow yourself enough time to make changes. As I said earlier, begin early. That will give you much time. That will give you, that will give you freedom to change the thing randomly, and that will give you freedom to include as many as, as much analysis as possible. So that is very important. Then these things are very important. Selecting a journal. For example, you have done some research. Most of the times I find that a few of my research scholars or few of my colleagues, they used to send their paper to a journal, which they feel that it is very easy to get accepted. But the thing is, the first thing that editor sees is, he says, hey, this is out of scope. I mean, there's no scope, we cannot accept that. And you are the better judge of your paper. You might be knowing, you are 100% sure that how good your research is, how you must be knowing about the quality of your paper. That is very important. So you may be knowing that, okay, this has the capability to go to this particular journal with impact factor this much. So you must be the better judge for your paper. Accordingly, select that journal. Don't go for public opinion that, okay, this is the journal which accepts paper easily. Don't go to that. Always try to find the journal which is related to the theme of your paper. When I say theme, it is core theme. Then you have to select your paper type. See, for example, if somebody has done extensive research, so he must be knowing that, okay, this is a paper which classifies in research paper group, in research paper classification. There are other classes like case studies, short communication, then those other things like review article. So you must be better just for that one. So depending on that, you have to select, because suppose you are submitting some paper and the journal, they have so many options, and you, if your paper is very large and you have, if you have selected the option like short communication, short communication, immediately they will reject it. At the same time, if you have, if you have short paper and if you select that research paper category, they will immediately reject that. So you have to be very careful for selecting that. And I tell you, these case studies are the pure gold. If you have analyzed any drought event or flood event, chances of getting it published is very high. This is my personal experience. I have published four or five papers. When I say four or five papers, they are very quality papers, and it was accepted within 2 or 3 days. Again, I'm saying within 2 or 3 days, and that to quality journals, impact factor more than 2, and both in Scopus and Web of Science. So I tell you again, those case studies which you have, they are pure gold. So if you are capable to do research on those case studies, that is going to help you a lot. Suppose if some cyclonic events are there, and if somehow you manage to get results for that, try to publish it as early as possible. And if you send it, the editor, he will be more than happy to accept your thing. I'm giving you a few examples. See, this was that flood event, and what we found that this was our Kerala flood event, and we had done some analysis, and within we sent it on 12th of July, and it was accepted in 16 July, within 3 days, within 4 days, and next on third day it was published also. And it's not like this is not this is a poor journal, or this is the best journal of natural hazard. So the impact factor is more than 2, and this is from Springer, Web of Science and Scopus both. So the thing is, if you have some case studies, that is going to give you the confidence to editor to accept it immediately. So editors, they are very smart. They may be feeling that if we reject it or if we send it for revision, other the other journals, they will there may be researchers who might be doing the same thing, so they may publish it first. So they just don't want that thing to happen. And the thing is, if you have certain quality writing with that research paper, they will immediately accept that one. So always have in your mind that if you have certain case studies of some earthquake, tsunami, flood event, drought event, that is going to help you and your paper will be accepted. Then presentation and organization of your paper is very important. I tell you again, good paper may get rejected, bad paper may get accepted. Sometimes even you have very good results with you, very quality research you have done, but if you have written it in bad way, or if you have not followed those quality steps to write the thing, it may get rejected. It's not fault of your research, it's just fault of it's a fault of your writing skill. You have not planned it properly. Even few bad papers, when we look at few literature, we feel that, hey, this is just garbage, but it is still accepted because that author, he was so smart that he had written it very efficient, very smartly. So it always depends on you. Always try. See, the thing is, you have something with you, but unless you present it in an attractive way, it may not get audience, or it may not get accepted by the people. The presenting or the writing is an art, and you have to learn that. That is very important. So in order to put your things to audience, in order to put your thing, you have to be a better presenter. You have to convince him that, okay, see, this is the thing, and you are able to convey each and every information which they see. That is important. That's why I say good paper may get rejected and bad paper may get accepted. So it all depends how smart the author is. Then this is also important. Actually, few papers, few research work, I feel that they are very good, but still few of them, see, I'm again saying this is not our fault. Few of those authors, they may be not good in English. So sometimes they write the thing, from their side, they may be feeling that, okay, they have conveyed all the information, but unfortunately that doesn't go to editor and reviewer. So by just looking at the abstract or title, they immediately reject that. They say, hey, this is written very poorly. Even editor sometimes your theme, he may not be the person who is working in your field, so he may send. I mean, by looking at your English, he may feeling that this is useless. But if the quality work is there and you have written it in a very way in very good way, then the chances of getting it accepted is much more. And there are few agencies who they just take minimal charges and they can correct your paper, so don't fear for that. But again, I'm saying that just don't do that. Sometimes if you are in a hurry, do that, but there is always scope to learn. There is always scope to improve your writing skill. So I always encourage you to improve that thing. But sometimes if you are in pressure that no, within this particular year or within this particular time frame, I have to, I have to publish this thing, then just go for those agencies. Though they just take minimal charges. Just don't bother about investing in that. Ultimately, it is going to benefit you. Then let's talk about geophysical parameters. So as this term itself is saying that anything which is related to, any atmospheric phenomena or anything which is related to Earth or our atmosphere, that comes into the category of geophysical parameter. We already had given you you so many examples for that. I tried to tell you about ways to retrieve those things. So today I'm going to focus much on those sites or the sources from where you can get data, and those things are important because you don't have much time. You have only 2 months, and from next month I will encourage you to do initial research for that. So taking that into consideration, I feel that these things are very important to you. So this is actually somebody was talking about groundwater level data. And this is one site. Actually, I have given the link. You just click on that one and you will find that, okay, this is the link. And I have just demonstrated how you can download the data or how you can analyze your thing. So just click on that site and you will be redirected to this one. Actually, this is just, the collection of Central Groundwater Board. So they have collection of this data sets where you can have groundwater level plus groundwater quality data both. So using that one, you can pursue your research on this particular field. So there is option. You just go to this water data online, and you will have this number of option with you. So for groundwater data, this is the option. For surface water, you may have reservoirs, quality, and also many things. So depending on the category in which you are interested, you can click on and you can have information about your data. Then this is just that groundwater level data. I mean, I try to visualize the thing. So actually, that is an online tool which gives you freedom to visualize the things by your own. And so I just try to do that. Here you can find that this is the scenario in India. So you can feel that this Rajasthan and all, this is very poor here. Water level is going down, and other regions, they are fine actually. Just now those northeastern part. And here, even these they are fine. They're just fine. Our Tamil Nadu, it is actually at few district it is bad. At few district it is good. So this is the scenario. You can just go there. You can click, and even you can have sub regions. For example, if somebody is interested to explore Tamil Nadu, then he just click on that one, and for this various districts he can get this information. How much is the depth to water level? At BZL is that below ground level. Then this is how you can categorize the thing. This is all agencies. Then this is season. You may have pre-monsoon, post-monsoon, or a particular month, because we all know that this water level it depends on whether we are talking about pre-monsoon or post-monsoon. So you just have option here. You can select your year also, that this particular year. For example, if you want to explore the impact of climate change or impact of other parameters on groundwater level, then you may be you may have to have data for last 30 or 40 years. So just go there, try to find whether for that particular reason, for that particular state, whether data is there or not. So we may have certain limitation on that thing, but definitely this is the sufficient data which we can take to do our research. So these are the options where you can filter your search and you can come with those compact things. So for the surface water also, we must have river monitoring reservoir. This kind of data is there. So depending on your choice, depending on your interest, you can click on that one and you can have your own data and you can analyze the thing. Then this is how you can download the data. This is actually a site. Just click on that one. Select here which district you want to focus on, which block you want to take, which state. Just click on that one, and then of course that post monsoon or pre monsoon you have to filter, and you will get the data. So by doing that, this is the data in Excel format for a district, that Kadalur district. So here so many stations are there, so many blocks are there. So depending on years, actually this is for 2018 only I downloaded, but you can have data for other years also. So depending on the way of depending on the type of your research or depending on your requirement, you can get data and you can analyze by yourself. And using the same site, my research scholar, he produced a very good paper, excellent paper actually. So I had one JRF, Sivarajan, he produced a very good paper on this groundwater level. And what we did actually, we had taken the data from the same source. And it's not like, as I told you earlier, no, always try to enrich it with as many components as possible. So what we did, we had identified this particular district in Maharashtra. And we found that this region, it is very prone, and the groundwater level is going very down. And we studied that region, and then we try to find the answer why it is happening. If there is a decrease in groundwater level data, why it is happening? So we just try to relate it with so many parameters, and we found that so many things are there: increase in temperature, that decrease in precipitation. So we relate it with so many things. And if you have time, try to read this paper. It may help you to get get idea for your mini project also. And this is again that water quality. Somebody was speaking about water quality data. So it was water level data. Now, if somebody is willing to do water quality research, then the site is there. You just click on that one, and you can select your this time step, which one you are focusing on, monthly, annual, or that thing. So just or seasonal. So depending on that, just keep your date and end year, beginning year, your district, your station. So all options are there. So you just try to take data for your own application, for your own reason, and then you come up with something substantial. Then of course for that you need to sign in. You need to have one account, and that is not very very difficult. You just go there. Keep certain information which they want, and they will just give you your login password. So that is very easy. You don't need to bother much. Only thing is you have to make sure that you are getting the refined data by putting filter on that particular site. That is important. Then this is pure diamond, I will say. This site, you just click on that one, and this is the best site for data. You can get all kind of data with this one. You can get hydrology, you can get atmospheric dynamics, you can data for crash pair, you can get data for crash pair, you can get data for aerosols, you can get data for oceanography, water energy. See, this is just this is just diamond site. You can get all kind of data here. So you just click there, and of course for that also you need to sign up. You need to give your information. They will give you one login password. And this site is the best site which I have found till date for your research. So this is how it looks. So if you click on that one, it will look like it will redirect it. It will redirect you to this particular page. And here you have so many options. So what kind of observation you are interested in? It will give you model observation. It will give you satellite observation. It will give you a station observation. So it has so many options. 570, 933. This is 933 model. Can you imagine that? You will get everything here. Then what kind of atmospheric parameter you want to focus? Aerosols, atmospheric chemistry, atmospheric dynamics, and of course they have certain aspects. They may have so many parameters, so many variables. So you see the options which they are giving you, and it's not like they are just these things are inaccurate or they are not very good. They are very good. They are quality parameters with the best possible accuracy. And then you have in hydrology also, if somebody is willing to do research on hydrological parameter or some oceanic biology, oceanography, water, and so many options are there. You have measurement also, what kind of, which, whether you are willing to estimate rainfall, whether you are willing to estimate sea surface temperature, whether you are willing to put more focus on a particular platform. You want to do your research using TRMM, you want to do your research using GPM. So all the options are available here. What kind of resolution you want, spatial resolution. If somebody is willing to do their research on very fine resolution, say 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, so everything is available here. What kind of temporal resolution you want to focus on. Here, that is also mentioned: hourly, daily, monthly, seasonal, annual, or 10 years, so like that. So everything is mentioned here. And of course, then you have here this what kind of analysis you want. Even this is an online tool which will give you freedom to analyze the data online. So you just have to click here. You just try to find what kind of analysis you want to do, and this is the data range from which particular year to which particular year, and this is region actually, because this is for entire globe. Now you have to be focused on your own study area. So here also you can refine that. And again, just keep one thing in your mind, that every of these parameters, they may not be available for entire globe. It may be there for certain reason, but ultimately, if you know your research area, if you know about your area of research, then you will definitely find few of parameters which is matching with your region. Then this is how it looks. If we click on platform, there may be so many options to you. It's there, MSR is there. When I was taking lecture, when I was speaking about those microwave remote sensing and thermal remote sensing, I tried to speak about those things, no? Those MODIS is there, then MERA, GPM, and somebody was speaking about GRACE also. I remember somebody was speaking about GRACE data also. So even that option is available here. Then we have all kind of platforms and instruments are here. Actually, then we have measurements also. Which measurement we want to focus on? So this is aerosol index, air pressure. When it is 6 means it is available from 6 sources. It's up to you which source you are preferring, at which particular resolution, or from which particular platform. So it all depends on your requirement. Somebody may be doing the research on climate change. So for that, even model data with coarser resolution is fine. Only thing which they have to look for is they must have long span of data with them. So depending on requirement, everything they can select from this particular site. Then we have spatial resolution. There may be that 0.00, 0.05, 0.1, 0.125. So everything is available from 4 kilometer to 9 kilometer. Everything is there. It all depends on what kind of analysis you want to focus on, or what kind of research you want to do. So depending on your requirement, everything is there. Then this is as I said, no. So this is different kind of analysis tool which they are offering us. So it depends on us whether we are focusing more on time series, time average map, animation, or map difference of time average, accumulated values, monthly and seasonal averages, then scatter plot, vertical plots, Hohmüller plot, zonal mean, histogram. So every option has been given to you. So for example, if somebody is willing to do research with GPM data, and if he is willing to focus on rainfall, then if he clicks on this GPM, 11 parameters are there, and it will be visible to this particular thing. And one more thing you can do is, if you are not sure, then you can keep your keyword here, like SST, then that will be visible to you. Like if you are doing some online purchase, if you are not sure, then you can have one option of that search to keep their thing. It will redirect you to that particular section or that particular domain. So similarly here you can search it with some keyword also. So the thing is, here you have so many options, and here also you see a particular thing. For example, if you are talking about rainfall, then it may have actually various units. Somebody is willing to take that hourly rainfall, so he may be doing it for like a millimeter per hour. then the rainfall, it may be measured in meter also, in inches also. So it all depends, in centimeter also. So you can, you can change that also. Even you have liberty to change your units also. Then this is, this is how you can select your region. You can just keep your cursor, you can move and you can select it. Or if you know the lat-long span of your region, you just have to enter here. That will redirect you to that particular region. Or if you just want to use your mouse or your cursor, just select that option, it will give you the region. Then actually by doing that, what we had taken this particular rainfall measurement, and we try to get the information. We try to, actually I try to show you how it is looking. So by doing that, I just go to the plot data. And when you do that, it will show you this. But remember, it won't show you only image. Here, what you can do, you just click on download, and it will, if you want to download it and you want to analyze it by by using some tool, you can save it to your computer. So it's not only image, it gives you option for so many things. So when I try to plot the monthly data for some years, then it was looking like this one. I try to focus on Indian region also. So here we can feel that coastal region, it is showing maximum rainfall, and this northeastern part, it is showing maximum rainfall. Then that option is there, the time series also. So if you want to do some research on, how rainfall is changing, for example, if somebody is willing to do research on, that flood event, what happened in Tamil Nadu. So he might be feeling that, okay, these 2 days were there when maximum rainfall happened. So what he can do, he can just go to that GPM site. He just have to select that rainfall, hourly rainfall data, because this flood event is there for 2 or 3 days, not like that it will rain for 1 month for those flood events. That is very rare actually. But most of the flood event happens due to 1, 2 or 3 days of heavy rainfall. So what that particular participant has to do, he just have to select the data, select the date also, on which particular date it rained heavily. He just have to go to that particular thing. He just have to go to the site, select the date, take your region. That is important. For example, if he knows that this Kanchipuram district was mostly flood affected, then he just have to take the lat-long of that district. Just go to that region. You select your lat-long, keep it there, and he just have to click there, and you will get your data. You will get your plot also. Then by doing that, what he will do, he will tell that, okay, see, on this particular day, it rained so heavily that maximum rainfall, maximum hourly rainfall, it crossed even 50 millimeter or 100 millimeter. And then how it happened for whether, then the first thing which reviewer or which audience will ask, whether it rained for whole day, then he will say, no, I did, the diurnal variability study, and we found that it rained for 3 or 4 hours, and it didn't rain continuously. It rained for 1500 UTC or 1500, you can take any time zone like GMT or anything, or IST. And he can say that, okay, no, on this particular IST it rained heavily. Next hour it just decreased drastically, and again after 2 hours it rained heavily. So depending on that particular time series, depending on that particular that plot, he will be able to tell that, okay, no, this is how that flood event came. It happened because during that particular day, this much of the rainfall happened, and peak rainfall happened during this and this particular IST, and this was the reason for the flood event. So that kind of study also, I encourage few of the participants to just read few of the papers on those flood events, even Kedarnath flood event, Chennai, Tamil Nadu flood event. Just make sure that you get idea about on this particular date happened. Go to that site, try to plot those diurnal variation, and get back to me, or get back to your guide. I don't know. So it depends actually. So we are like 6 or 7 people. You have to decide your topic, and accordingly we will allot ourselves. So depending on that, just discuss with your guide, and tell him that this is the thing which you did, and try to make it as compact as possible, try to make it as informative as possible. So there are existing research already on this in this particular field, but I encourage few of you to, you know, add new dimension to that research. I mean, there may be few people who might have missed certain thing. I encourage you to just explore that possibility, that aspect. Always try to explore a thing which is untouched by previous researcher. That is very important. So by doing that, you will be able to, you know, you will be able to showcase your talent, and you can be identified easily. Then this is a Hohmüller plot. Actually, you know what? You may be knowing about time series. You may be knowing about, you know, those grid plot or so many things. So this is important aspect of, suppose sometimes, you know, actually few days before, you know, some creatures, some TDs, they were moving from Pakistan to Indian region. So they were just moving from one latitude to other from one latitude longitude to other place. So if you want to see the movement of them, so what you need to do, you just take your data, your date here, and you just try to see, or you just try to find which aspect you want to analyze. If you want to analyze the movement towards latitude, then just take longitude here. But if you want to take that longitude, then just take latitude here. So here, what you see, this is latitude, this is longitude. This shows that how in you know, how that rain system moved from one longitude to other longitude. So it all depends on your thing. So Hohmüller plot, this may be with respect to latitude, or this may be with respect to longitude also. So the thing is, you have to identify, or you have to explore in which particular application you want to use that one. So depending on, you can have this one. And this option is available, or this option is given in that, you know, that online visualization system also. Then this is other thing. For example, somebody was talking about GRACE data. So if I click here, so this is the option available with this site, and here you can take any parameters and you can plot them accordingly. Here everything it will show you that this is the spatial resolution which is available with this site, and this is the beginning year and this is the end year. So this is how you can take your data and you can do your own research using that one. So choice is up to you, which particular problem you want to address, which particular topic you want to focus on. Depending on, you know, you have to come up with your interest or with your own ideas, and just give us some topics or some ideas. So based on that, we will select on which particular, I mean, we will select that which guide is going to, you know, which guide is going to give you ideas about that mini project. Then if somebody is willing to do research on, you know, the snow depth, then he can have some model data, and depending on that, he can select that he want to do those seasonal variation study. And this is the December, January, February. This is the year, and this is the boundary which he is focusing on. So depending on that, he can select the data, he can take the model output, and he can perform his research. And this is how it is looking actually. This entire renewable time series is looking like this one. And this is of course time, and this is the depth. We can say that as we moved from 2018 to 19, there was an increase in the snow depth. It might have happened due to so many reasons that you have to explore. Why it happened, whether it precipitated so much. When I say precipitation, it may be in the form of both rainfall and snowfall or hailstorm. So depending on that thing, you have to find the reason. You plot something, then you have to assess why it is looking like that. That is very important. And once you are able to answer those questions, that this is looking like this because of this one, then you can say that no, I'm good enough to do my research. So that should give you confidence, and that will feel you that okay, I mean, you are meant for research. See, everybody cannot do research. Research is not you know, it's not very easy thing. So the thing is, you have to have patience for that. And once you are able to answer those questions, why it is looking like that, why it is happening like that, then you are eligible for doing your research. Then if somebody is willing to do, you know, those ice cloud optical thickness, then again, I'm saying that it all depends which particular observation, which particular time frame, which particular region you are focusing on. So depending on that, you just click on those particular things and can have your own research. Then this is again the time series of the cloud optical thickness, how it is showing variation. Again, I encourage you to find the reason why this fluctuation is there for that particular reason. So these things are there. You just try to get the data, analyze them, and get back to us that why you found this kind of fluctuation there. Thank you for the attention, and if you have any questions, you can ask me.